welcome to Your Questions Answered. We are the Dadley Boyz of What Culture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to answer all of your burning wrestling questions live on YouTube. We've got it all fixed. Thank you to everyone who's been us through that.
All being well.
But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete with a very good quiz, of course, on wrestle culture. As I said, though, joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to answer all of your burning wrestling questions. And I want to give a shout out to, where is it? Dan of the Dragons, who says, yes, I rarely get to catch a live stream. I'm sat here slapping my arm, drinking in the What Culture manner right now.
Speaking of What Culture manner.
Yeah, I like that.
That's what he does in the rap video. Manner. I love him.
We haven't done this for a while, so let's dive straight into the questions. First question today comes from Matt Rains.
Good. It's like you're doing your own sort of Star Wipe.
No, I don't know. It's what The Rock does in the vid.
Yeah.
What Tech 9 is it? So what's my mother? That's what he does. Should I do now?
I say that, yeah, please. It was never The Rock's. It was Michael Sidgwick's.
Matt says, good afternoon, gents. Still recovering from yesterday.
Is it the good Matt?
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Is it the good Matt?
Yeah.
There's lots of good Matts, but Matt Rains is one of the best.
Not the FA Cup. Let United have their little win against our C team.
I mean, I think you're posting through it, Matthew. Love you. Always appreciate the support, but you might be a little bit more gotten to than you are letting on.
I was gotten to by...
Oh, he got sent off as well, didn't he? The dumbass.
Took
his shirt off and got a second yellow.
Booked.
Take the loanee out of Sunderland. You can't take the Sunderland out of the loanee.
I got wound up by Sam Matterface's commentary. Surprise, surprise. Especially when you've got the
He's
goats.
black. No, you're ginger, but you don't have to steal a patter.
You've got the goats, Clive Tilsley and Ali McCoy.
Yep.
And then you got these two. And he said, Man United have stopped the final stop for Jurgen Klopp going to Wembley on this farewell tour. He just went there and won a trophy. So thanks for playing, Sam, dickhead. Anyway, wow. He's rubbish.
Trying to get yourself a WrestleMania match at the last minute or something. Matterface, I am calling your ass out.
Boring Lee Dixon. Ali McCoy sat right... Anyway, not talking about that. I'm talking wrestling. Matt says, what are you three most looking forward to in Philly? Cheers, guys. Thank you, Matt.
All of it.
Every single second.
The food, the drink, even playing basketball with this asshole, and the wrestling, all the wrestling. Cannot wait. Like it is WWE, and I know this because one is sat opposite me. Even one of their most ardent and esteemed critics will be able to acknowledge that like there is something magic about the town when the Fed's in it and the buzz is there. They're very, very good at creating that atmosphere. Obviously, WrestleMania weekend I was very established as being just a wrestling destination for the city, and that's pretty weird to say that even now, when going back decades, that just simply wouldn't have been the case. Like it reminds you that wrestling is a broader thing than you think. And
weird when you're walking around, so that person's not wearing a wrestling t-shirt.
Yeah,
that's strange.
like if anything, like. The only thing I don't like about one of these trips and one of these big occasions is that return to normality when you leave Planet Wrestling, wherever it is based in the world.
Oh, it's so weird.
Especially when you come back to England, because the people just aren't as nice to you. It takes a couple of days to get back used to it.
You say, looking forward to everything. What moment are you most looking forward to? Cody finishing the story, the tag match, main event in night one, Bayley, Paramore, or like I know you're going to a lot of like ECW adjacent shows as well.
Genuinely, I cannot wait for basically an ECW tribute show in the ECW arena.
Yeah.
That is one of them venues, if you're of a certain age, like sits there, as daft as it might sound, with a Madison Square Garden for more contemporary fans, with a Daly's Place. You saw it, and yet from the UK, it felt even further away than the ocean that separates us, quite honestly. And obviously, it's been done up a bit more now, and it's been restored. I'm not going to walk in and see a bingo hall and see the Eagles' Nest where Joey Styles sits, but there's definite history to fans of a certain age, and it's going to be quite nice to see actual wrestlers that lived it going out there and having their big night. It's Shane Douglas. I want him to say Dick Flair. If I'm in person for him saying Dick Flair, it's going to be one of the pops.
Oh, you're just going to shout at him instead?
I will, yeah.
Incredibly, I think the kids call it basic bitch stuff, right? I watched Cody versus Roman last year on my settee, my couch, and honestly, there was a point in that match early. I was like, if they had a 2-hour match here, I would not complain at all. I just could have watched them go for hours. I could have just never wanted to see it end. Obviously, the finish was as bad as the result. But for a while they had me, I was like, this is just massive, special. It's just the magnitude of this occasion was unbelievable. And to be in the stadium for, one would hope, the correct finish, if they can sort of emulate how well paced that match was, if they can summon the same atmosphere, you're looking at a top 3 match in company history. Was that match overrating it, or was that match just an unbelievable bit of business before the finish?
I was devastated by the fact that they went for that finish. Obviously, it makes sense long term, but in the moment, like you say, it really took the shine off something that was trending towards match of the year. Like you say, arguably, one of the matches of the decade, like you say. And the thing is, people say, Sid is anti-WWE. You're not a fan of week-to-week WWE programming. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, it's pretty dull.
You prefer AEW, which is fair enough, that, each to their own.
I also like every motion picture ever made. See how fucking stupid that sounds?
But, you love a big occasion. We're not just talking about Mania, Clash at the Castle. You were in your element, weren't you?
That's what I'm saying. I loved Clash at the Castle. The fact that a creative writer had little to do with it might have helped a great deal. But Roman Reigns was a conductor. He's such a great big match performer. To be there with an even bigger crowd.
And me.
More important stakes, the magnitude of they can't possibly do this again, can they? I'll say something not even his biggest fan, but Paul Heyman said the art of promotion is how many times have we made you think it has to be this guy, has to be this guy, has to be this guy. To their immense credit with WWE, nearly 3.5 years into this reign, they're still convincing the public they're not going to do it again, are they?
Yep.
I think this will date, just as this is an incidental point to the question. Thank you again, Matt, very much for it. As an incidental point, I think this will date quite fabulously. People have this reductive, sort of more sweeping look back at things. And I think this entire Roman reign will really benefit from that sweeping look back.
I like when enough wrestling passes where I like it when you can use comparisons favorably rather than just the old version of the thing you like was better or whatever. I think sort of a lot of people made the comparison at the time that The Rock and Hogan was a spiritual successor to sort of Hogan Andre. Cody called Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18 the best match ever. He's had the spiritual successor to that and he could potentially have it as a part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
It is absolutely that, because it's all of that, but it's modernized work-wise. The match is better, hold for hold. And I'm not saying that to discredit Rock and Hogan in the slightest, but of course, a Cody and Roman can give more than a Hogan and Rock physically, although as much as The Rock wanted to. And it could stand to be a 2-parter. It's so dependent on the finish.
Yes.
Still. And even then, I will say this, as I'm far from the WWE cynic at this point, but yes, there would still be something to say you were in the building when Roman went over at WrestleMania 40. That, I don't even want to think about that dark cloud, but it would be something to say you were there for it.
And as Andy Murray says, we win either way. Either Cody finishes the story, everyone goes home happy, or we get months of content out of it. Vanders, thank you for sliding in as soon as this stream started. First question came in from him. Vanders says, "Afternoon, gentlemen. Do you think that TK?" We always get to this question actually, Sige, for news and stuff, and I always hold off on it because I do want to ask it when you're in attendance.
Oh. Don't build it up too much.
Afternoon, gentlemen. Do you think TK should consider making Rampage a women's-only show?
Yes. I mean, what else are you going to do? Put Zack Knight on it?
I'm so excited for the Collision Review later.
Oh, no, because you like Zack Knight. It's fine. Listen to the Collision Review later, wherever you get your podcast from. I've got to the bottom of something.
What do you reckon, Hamflet? Come on, let's be
honest. No. Let me, elucidate first.
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. I don't know how viable it is. I really don't. If you look at the one match mostly, the one feature match per week, I know there was that conspiracy doing the rounds that it wasn't AEW's choice. I didn't really take a great deal of stock in it. I think it was rubbish. But at the same time, you know, they've created this situation where it's like that. It's that cycle, isn't it now? The self-fulfilling prophecy of the women can't draw, so they're not on TV, but they need to draw to get better. And it's almost annoying. It's that buffering circle that
it's trying to get your first job. You need experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience.
Yeah. It's like that buffering circle that you might remember from the days of internet. I live in heaven, so I still get it every time. But you know what I mean? It's almost annoying as just get on with it. But you can't because the buffer's in the way. That circle, that never-ending circle. I think, as much as I think that's a great idea, and I would advocate for it because, like, it's Rampage. What does it exist to do except put some mid-carders in there and give them a win? It's not a show that anyone cares about, but if it's got its own identity, people could care about it. If it's got its own USP, people could care about it. So I'm all in favor of it. And it's necessary to give the women more reps. How many times? It's like, it feels like absolute time warp, man. 2020, they need reps. Someone like, I always use Anna Jay as an example. Like, there's a total regression has happened there. Because Anna Jay had a probably best match, like really early, in Daly's place against, was it Cheetah? 6 minutes, it was great. And then she had a great match, an improbably great match against Jade Cargill. We know the talent's there, but then you know that you only get reps is the only way to become this great performer where you feel completely fluid in yourself. And it's like any art. It's like some of the worst stuff I've ever written is some paragraph on a Word document when I was in an old job. I didn't really have the time to write. I was just being lazy. And it's just like, and you just give up after a paragraph. It's just there right in the first paragraph of the thing that they are trying to really crack onto. Every 6 weeks, every 4 weeks, the rotation, some way of giving these talented women reps, whether it is by being on Rampage every week or striking a relationship with an all-women's promotion in Japan, for example. It's a shame. Like, AEW deserve a kicking, and I like to think that we've given them a kicking over the last few years, but they didn't invent the concept of widespread systemic misogyny in North American pro wrestling. If that didn't exist before AEW, guess what? You would have had a lot of women's-only promotions that you could partner up with and then just expedite this process. But I'm talking, the buffer isn't just the goddamn cycle of AEW's women's division. It's our conversations about it. It's never going to end.
The misogyny problem that Sid speaks of is such that AEW would get a massive win just by doing this show. It would be seen as progressive in 2024. They would be taking a step to have, say, like 3 or 4 women's matches on a single Rampage because wrestling is still that far behind, ultimately. I pitched this about a year ago on X. I was looking for an old tweet and I found that one because it was right at the time when AEW was coming in for the most criticism, probably midway through 2023. And for some reason, I'd remembered that segment where Chris Jericho had Judas Band and came out and everybody sung it. And I was like, and that was like the go-home show at the first dance. And you're like, this company can do no wrong. And it struck me then that if you absolutely had to, I'm not saying that like Tony Khan would greenlight this women's show and like, yeah, but I need something with fellas in. Like, otherwise, but if it was like a network interjection, it's like, it's got to be a presentation of AEW as a whole. I would love, like my dream scenario for Rampage, considering that there is nothing to lose by changing the format of that show, would be to have it be an all-women's show with a 5-minute section dedicated to AEW from the vault. It is 5 years, and it's frankly incredible the amount of stuff that they've done, and it is not an easy accessible archive. If you compare it to Peacock and the network or WWE in general, their YouTube, they're 100 billion or something they've got now. You can find out you like from WWE's history. It's much more difficult to find stuff from it. I'll all the time over the desk ask Sidgwick about an AEW match because I can remember about half of it, and Sidgwick's got the memory for when it was, the context around it and stuff. And they've not got the time or the place or the presence to be putting their old stuff out there. If you have the all women's card and then halfway through you don't know what's coming, it's going to be a surprise match, angle or promo from the history, you're also reminding your audience, we've always kicked ass, and by the way, here's this new stuff. I think that's a format just waiting to happen, and there's nowhere else within AEW's TV presence where you could fit anything like that in. Sometimes people need to be reminded about what they've done, because there's been various points where the hit rate is so high.
Yeah, they're not very good at selling themselves.
No.
Mark Lee Willis says, why do we only hear the door when Stax enters or exits? And is there a second and quieter door for Adam? I can answer this one really easily. We obviously present this from a brilliantly soundproof studio, and I know about that. And there's a very specific way you have to open that door. That it doesn't, because the hinges need a bit of work.
WD-40.
Yeah, but
like a lot of WD-40.
and that's why sometimes you'll hear Scott come in accidentally and leave without saying a word, because he's walking in not thinking someone's recording at the time. He just swings the door open. That's why you hear the creak.
Yeah.
But there's a special way to open it. I need to talk to Stax really about it. I'll have a word.
Just smarten him up to the door.
Yeah.
It's credible. I just assumed it was because he was so jacked and full of energy that he burst through, and it doesn't
Yeah,
make
he is an
no,
athlete.
when one pushes normally, there's no...
And we're not athletes, really.
OG Stem Cell, thank you for your donation. Says, I've got a gift for you guys at the live show. That live show, of course, Sidge, being It's Always Sunny at What Culture, which goes down on day 2 of WrestleMania, ahead of night 2 of WrestleMania. You'll have plenty of time to get over if you want to come to that show. It goes down at Underground Arts in Philadelphia. VIP tickets sold out. They sold out months ago.
But guess what? Guess what?
General admission tickets are still available. whatculture.com/tickets. All the gang's going to be there. So do join us for that one. Join OG Stem Cell, who's going to be coming. We sort of already answered this, but I'm going to ask it in case there's some other things that you're looking forward to. What non-WWE match or show are you guys most excited for Mania week?
It's ECW for me. I'm going to Bloodsport for the first time. It's never been...
Shayna Baszler.
Well, this is it, right? It's never been high on my list, and then all of a sudden the Fed get involved, and Anthony wants to go to Bloodsport. It's not that. I had the tickets ages ago.
He did, to be fair.
The Fed are in. It's a sellout already. The Fed are sort of the cherry on the cake.
Wow.
I just think it's never been my complete cup. There have been moments in various Bloodsports over the years that I've enjoyed it. But as a show live, I think it'll be more entertaining than maybe watching the Fight TV feed. It's always been in little snatches and clips that I've liked it. So I'm quite curious to see how that is as a live experience too.
My plans aren't firmed up yet, so...
Wale Mania? Maybe. Potentially Ring of Honor. But yeah, it's quite WWE focused, our
coverage,
output, yeah. So it will be mainly WWE. And I forgot to answer Matt's question, or I think he probably knows the answer. It's Tony D winning the NXT World Title. Johan,
Well, what is the answer?
of the non-WWE show.
No, is Tony D going to win the world title?
Oh yes, no, yeah. I meant to say yeah. That's what I'm most excited about, going to watch Tony D.
Oh, right. Okay. So he is going to win the world title. Do we put a bet on this? We did, didn't we?
I'm scared. I don't know. I was thinking of this over the weekend. We had a bet.
Seemed confident 4 seconds ago.
I said you should have a pasta bet, and it's basically the pun I'm most proud of.
Maybe we did then, yeah.
Yeah.
Johan Benson says, there's a couple of questions from Johan. Thank you
that,
so much.
because it'll be expensive, won't it? The coffee you get us. Yeah.
There's a couple of questions from Johan Benson. There's been some talk of MJF flack recently. Whilst I wasn't a fan of the second half of his reign, there is talk of him being out of place in the current roster, which is ridiculous to me. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Wrestling fans are fickle. I'm sometimes fickle. We are all fickle. It's hard to have lasting memories of something that never stops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't take a step back. You just can't. Wrestling doesn't function that way. Let's face it, the babyface turn did not work whatsoever. It just didn't. If you look at the acclaim that surrounded MJF in 2021, going into 2022, how goddamn hot he was, it just simply isn't that.
Honourable failure? Is that the phrase?
Noble failure.
Noble failure, thank you.
I'm not so sure. Maybe.
Did they feel their hand was kind of forced that he was getting over anyway?
Well, they'd already thwarted that, and I thought heading into Revolution 2023 just got him as a heel again. But you can't really deny public for that long. My broad thoughts on the MJF thing, right, is that he'll come back. He's a young guy. I would never, for example, right, want to read too much of what I wrote in my 20s. I just wouldn't. And I think in 5-10 years, he'll look back and think, Christ, I made some mistakes there. I made some mistakes. And I think wisdom's actually a thing. It sounds like the most boring thing in old, I am an old person now. But like experience and wisdom, these things genuinely do come with age, or at least I'd like to think so. So I think he himself will realise in a few years, some of those ideas are ridiculous. I don't know what happened here in terms of the flack MJF got, and you say, was it a noble failure? The cynical way of looking at it, right, is that they saw the success of the bloodline and they saw the agonizing at times interplay between Roman and Sammy, and was he my friend really? And you wanted them to be friends, but you also wanted them to not be friends because you'd get a great grudge match and huge match out of it, which you did at Elimination Chamber. Did they look at that amidst the worst amplified, dumbest people alive saying, and they don't tell stories, right? And sort of configure the title reign around the bad faith critics. I don't know why they ultimately went that route, when for me, they really could have just kept it simple. Kept it simple with a feud with Eddie Kingston, with MJF as a heel. And why didn't they do that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how good the promos would have been? The dynamic between those two, they're the complete opposites, and that's what makes the best conflict. You've got this little moneyed sociopathic twat who can talk incredibly well versus this unbelievably humble everyman who worked harder than most, who looked like he was doomed more than most, who can also talk so well. Got the best babyface promo, the best heel promo, complete contrasts in characters between the two, and you didn't make a feud out of it when they were both at the hottest at the world title level. I just think they really should have kept it simple.
Yeah.
They should have done that program. But it's odd because MJF versus Cole worked really well at All In. Like really, really well. They had the biggest crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And tried to get every single audible reaction out of them and succeeded. It was ambitious, ultimately too ambitious, and ultimately it's not really what the core AEW fan base wanted, and you can demonstrate that by the fact that the numbers at the gates fell off and the ratings didn't really do that well outside of the odd things like Grand Slam. Yeah, noble failure for me. Way too over-ambitious. Should have kept it simple, but that is the folly of youth. You want to do too much, and the irony is that MJF, who I've got all the respect for in the world, who I think will bounce back to an unbelievable degree, just watch him, is that his whole MO, modus operandi, to quote Gordon Cole in Firewalk With Me, is he didn't want to be the wrestler that got too much of his in his matches. And he was great at this, and that when he took a bump, it actually, like a big wild apron thing, you'd think, oh, he doesn't do that. Even though he did it in every kind of match towards the end, it still felt novel because he was so good at the messaging surrounding his character. Ultimately, with the storyline, he tried to get too much of his in, and I think it failed as a result. Ultimately, even though the peaks were stratospheric, Bryan stuff, unbelievable. Even the Ricky Stark stuff early was unbelievable. He wanted to do the best four-way, the best Iron Man. I think he wanted to do the best underdog performance at Full Gear. You want to do the best, better bloodline than the bloodline even. I think you just try to get too much of his in. And if you try and do that, I think it's a bit suffocating. And I think a lot of the fans, and probably MJF himself, are sort of glad of the break that they've got from each other. But being mistaken not. Obviously, I've had a bit of a nightmare trying to get my words out there. Be mistaken not. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, in the next 5 years, will reach those peaks of March 2022 all over again, and how multiple times. He's too talented at this stage, probably for his own good.
Respect. Where is his?
Yes.
I agree wholeheartedly. I said this at the time, getting overly defensive, I think, of it, because I felt like there was some sort of like, whoa, we'll leave sports entertainment out of this, yeah? But I said it then, and I still think it now. I think time will be incredibly kind to his reign.
It won't be kind.
I think time's incredibly kind to all sorts of crap. I've seen what gets like...
It won't be kind to his reign. It'll be kind to him as a performer subsequent to the reign and before it. Why would it be kind to the rain? Did you see the Full Gear storyline? It was so shocking.
I saw bits of that match where there was still loads of drama in it, and I just think it wasn't for everyone. And I think it was a gross misfire for the AEW base. I think for all the reasons you outlined, but there were bits within that Full Gear. Watch that back. There is still stuff where people, where people are absolutely biting. Like he has them even when he doesn't. The stuff he was teasing out was a baby face. Like the first time he does the dive, and the first time, like with different times he was embracing different things. And again, overambitious is the word. Almost all of the matches are going to hold up. I think they had that frigging opener against the Righteous. It's really fun.
He's a world champion,
and that's why in context it was dying. But you watch that back in a few years' time, and it's going, how's he done that? How's he made this entertaining?
That was the problem for me. That was one of the core problems that I forgot to touch on. Is that he's always good at getting pops. He's always getting but there was just no emotional weight to any of it. There was no real compelling. I need to see this every single week. I mean, there was the devil.
Sorry, not the reign. That's fair. Not the title reign. I don't think people look at as MJF's title reign as one of the better ones in the fairly rich history of that belt. But I just think all the individual components will look better, in the fullness of time. Maybe the Brian Iron Man match was probably one that was appreciated there and then. But certainly, I think the matches. I even think the good, and they weren't always for everyone, and there were some bad ones. But I think there's a couple of good segments with Adam Cole in there. People wouldn't have felt the way they did at Wembley without some of it being good. All you remember now is the slow motion peanut butter, is the stupid Crocodile Hunter one. It wasn't without some pretty big flaws. But a lot of that stuff, like the week that he unveiled the Adam Cole made in the mashup, and it's stuff like that is what makes that match as good as it was. The matching jackets, all that. There will be stuff that people will relive and mentally maybe remove some of the things that because sometimes it did stink.
It stunk.
But again, you're talking MJF more than any time in AEW's history became a 52 weeks a year man. It was the most we'd been exposed to the character, which was something else carefully curated.
That's the thing
he had to give away. And
it was a dam breaking.
Yeah.
It was a dam, especially on socials. It was a dam breaking of here's me, at last I can be me. And it was that was a lot of you. That was
as
a lot.
You say, the break now was really helped with that, I think. Yeah. The day that his music hits, it's going to be a massive reaction in the building. It is. People are going to remember that feeling.
Still needs a bit more time for me.
I don't disagree.
No, he needs more time off.
Hi to Paul Harney. Thank you for your first super chat. He says, no, I'm not going to do the accent because it's his first one. What's the crack, legends? The tickets I've got to your live show may need to keep it tight, though, as I've got a Mayo GAA match, which I've looked up with the help of Dadley's, is a Gaelic football match.
Like a WWE fan, he does not know how to use Google. So I had to say, because he said, I don't understand what this person's written down. And I said to the WWE-leaning Adam Wilborn, there's a tool called Google that provides the answer to most questions. And then he went, this legitimately happened. It's a shoot before we pressed record, by the way.
I was talking to Paul in the back earlier on, and he told me that Gaelic football was on.
I was talking to Adam Wilborn before we pressed record, and I introduced him to a website called Google, and then he used it, and then he worked out what you were saying.
If it was still around, you'd be an Ask Jeeves guy, wouldn't you? You'd love Jeeves.
100%. That guy knew what he was talking about.
Jeeves guy.
But yeah, Paul's watching a Mayo GAA match in Tirnaog at 3 p.m. Thank you very much for the donation. Says, love the pods. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Love watching your local sport, whatever it might be in America. Getting the football, if your team's playing, you're in a
10
bar.
a.m. Champions League matches.
Somewhere in the world or whatever, it's this is what I watch at home, but I'm in America.
Very, very, very quick story here. When we were in Las Vegas ahead of Double or Nothing last year, myself, Michael Hamflett, Phil Chambers, and Simon Miller. I don't know if Simon Miller was paying that much attention, so I will not besmirch his good name. We watched a sport wrong.
Yes.
So we watched a sport, right? Where I think the idea was to get dogs to jump really far, right? The idea was to get dogs to jump really far. And in order to convince them to jump and make it into a sport and unwittingly compete with one another.
It's unreal.
Didn't they throw some kind of rolled up newspaper? And the idea was, I'm a dog, I'll chase after that. So these dogs would go, woo, woo.
Off a diving board into a pool.
Off a diving board into a pool. The entire time we kept going, so close. So close yet so far. We thought the idea was for them to catch the thing that was thrown to get them to jump, and they kept missing it.
Yeah.
And we're like, is one of these dogs going to get its fucking act together? Catch this.
It was dog long jumping. We're the idiots.
Then we realised, that's why they're doing that.
There's a sports bar, if you can even call it that, in the middle of Caesar's Palace Casino, where I'm not exaggerating, 200 screens across the wall. Yeah. It's like anything of any game in the world.
You want to bet on a man?
I need the dog jumping on that corner. It's great. It's really great.
I forgot to ask Johan's other question. Johan says, "Well, I'm really enjoying AEW Collision. I'm on an island with McGuinness's commentary. Do you feel the chromosome comment crossed a line?"
Yeah, that was absolutely... What was he thinking there?
It feels like Bryan Danielson's missing a chromosome during his match with Shibata.
Nigel, man, you pillock.
That's an idiotic, insensitive thing to say that completely, well, not completely, very much momentarily removed from the action. You'd like to think that someone's going to have a word there, but you just don't know. You just don't know. I think otherwise, Nick McGuinness is really funny, really cutting, very quick, has struck the balance between playing the heel commentator and generally providing great insight into why such and such a wrestler would use that hold or would be afraid of that hold or what he's doing or what he needs to do to avoid or reverse the pressure of said hold. Because I don't really get the mechanics of wrestling that much. I can get the story beats, but the mechanics sometimes... Yeah. And I think him and Taz are great at that. Yeah. But that was completely moronic, and I hope someone has a word.
Nigel, I was never a massive Nigel McGuinness guy. That picture of him in his wrestling gear, having got back into ring shape, and obviously it didn't work out for Wembley last year, that sold me on him getting his big moment even more than the last of McGuinness did. There was something so powerful. It was like in a modest hotel room, and it just wasn't going to be his night. And, with Danielson missing the show, you can assume that maybe it was going to be Danielson. I don't believe Danielson's quitting. Not one bit. Never did.
It's not.
But I know that if, Wembley was going to be the last, there would be bigger matches for Bryan Danielson to have. I'm, pun intended, all in on Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. They did that in England for Ring of Honor. They had their concussion match in Liverpool in the Olympia. It's a furnace in there, but it's tiny. And then to take that into Wembley and do it all these years later, they've all the things they've experienced in their life to pull them back together. That photo worked me on it. I was like, you've really earned this. I hope, and he continues to work it every week, doesn't he? Hope he gets it. I really do.
Sam Thomas, in case you heard us as we were going live on YouTube, says, so what do you think of the Austin Theory thing? The Austin Theory thing, of course, being hit with a stunner followed by an RKO on SmackDown that didn't necessarily go together.
Right, I saw this clip, then I watched all of SmackDown.
Obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just get social media. How many different times can you have two conversations at once and not just have the correct conversation or the correct take? The ceiling for this spot was incredibly contrived, but go on, then I'll let you have it.
Yeah.
Right? That was the ceiling. It looked fundamentally very silly, but fun. The problem is the execution of that was abysmal, and there was a delay effect to the jump that made it look like the worst kind of contrived. It was a good, if contrived idea, ... executed hilariously badly. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the correct. I'm not trying to be the regulator. Regulator. Yeah, that's great. Love G-Funk.
I like that cut through, by the way, that audio of us discussing, as a reminder that anybody that needs it, microphones on or off, it's just that. We're just having the same nonsense conversations. We come up from the office, we had some nonsense chats about wrestling. Let's take this to the studio.
So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but I was certainly right about that.
And if you want to know Hamlet's takes on it, check out the SmackDown Review podcast.
They're pretty similar, but guess who disagrees?
Why? What's your problem?
No, I'm with you.
Oh, right. What's your problem?
I think it could be an amazing spot. It just needs Logan Paul in the place of Austin Theory because he's one of the best workers in the world.
You're always a conditional praiser of WWE. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is pretty mediocre, but guess what? Next week, this is going to happen because I say so. That means it's good. Just evaluate the show on merit from what you've just seen.
You know what they say, though, Sige?
Let it play out. Gotta let it play out. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Conditional goated deserves conditional praise. That's what I've always said.
Tactical Penguin says, afternoon, lads. I'm listening while on a Roadworks roller. I don't have
Oh,
a question.
yeah.
What's that?
Well, flattening the
Yeah, that's what I
tarmac.
assume, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't have a question. Just excited for this week's coverage. Raw, SmackDown, and NXT because I'm a real wrestling fan. Love you, Sidge. Right. Just wanted to flex. So thanks for your donation.
That's a pretty good flex.
Take the piss out of me. Thanks.
Right, one of them things.
Andy says, Cody's arc from outsider who just wanted to win a belt without making it personal to the guy who has to save the roster is one of the best. Campbellian Rollins, a possible mentor due to his wins versus Reigns as well.
Say that again.
I thought you two might know what that meant. I was just going to say it. Campbellian?
David Bellion.
Sunderland and Man United star.
Any ideas?
It's just a typo.
Rollins, I'll just...
Campbell. Yeah, so it's So he's trying to say he's like a Campbell. Which Campbell?
Sol Campbell?
It's probably an author or something that's going well over our heads.
Sorry. Get Ask Jeeves off.
Oh, of course, it's Thomas Campbell.
Oh, yeah. What?
Hero's Journey, American... Oh, Joseph Campbell, maybe.
They're educating our ignorant ears.
Yes.
American mythologist Joseph Campbell, particularly the hero's journey.
So Rollins is that hero. So basically, he's sacrificing his own big
Makes
moment.
sense now.
Yeah, it's his
moment
fault.
for Cody. Is that what he's getting at?
Huh?
Like, sacrificing his own big moment for Cody.
Yeah.
Is that his own hero's journey? Is that? I like that. I know this. I know Rollins full stop is just not for everybody.
No, it's mid.
But I like this stuff, this material he's been given about how...
I've got the best take ever on Rollins, but I'm waiting for us to record a Chatty Faces before I...
Oh, yes.
He's... This
Might
thing,
give it away.
This thing about how he is so... Like, he's carrying this world title, which he's worked hard to make credible, and he's only done half a decent job of it. And he's admitting that Roman having that one is an insult. It's like, it's no good, and Cody, you're the guy to have it. I think they're doing a good job with that.
Sorry, I just...
No, nothing
Andy
like that.
clarified, yes. Cody's the hero, Rollins is the mentor. Cody's arc is Campbellian. Down of the Dragons just
I like
writes...
David Foster Wallace. So
Down of the
I'm
Dragons...
thick.
Down of the Dragons just writes DJ Campbell, so... He was class back in the day.
Yeah.
But not so much for you.
Class is not the word. He could pop it with a goal or two.
Yeah.
There's that DJ Campbell
it's a
again.
good story.
Yeah.
TM, who regularly interacts with us all on social media, of course, says if you had to put one person from either WWE or AEW in a stable from the other promotion, who would it be, and why would it be The Rock joining the Elite?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
That would be class,
Pretty
wouldn't
good,
it?
wouldn't it?
Management figures and all the rest of it.
I'll take Chris Jericho and put him in Regeneration X so the Triple H gets another cruel victory over him. Go on.
I would take
cross chop Chris.
Chris Jericho and put him in any WWE stable.
Send him to chase you.
Yes.
Then
Then again, no.
I think with WrestleMania, win, lose or draw, I love her so much, but there's not much else for Bayley to do. So another go around of her and Mercedes Moné with different coats of paints in AEW would be unreal. I would love that.
There's been one women's stable, so they don't no longer exist.
Yeah, they can
That's
fight.
not really an answer
they
to the
can fight
question.
for tag belts that don't exist.
Yeah.
Certainly working against each other. Like seeing that in a different company done all over again. I'm into that. Because I don't think after WrestleMania, like Bayley has accomplished everything.
I'm trying to think about this question. Right. WWE's always got this thing where, well, not always, increasingly not as much, where you can be really, really funny or good or whatever, and it's just hard to do this because of WWE television and the way that it is, right? What if, right, and bear with me here, what if Charlie Dempsey's got something? Because sometimes I see some of his moves on NXT and think, you're actually really good mechanically. That's a really clever way of applying pressure or reversing pressure from a hold or whatever. I would like Taz to explain what he's doing and not Vic Joseph or Booker T. What if he's got a bit about him and Moxley could
You just want another Regal in the BCC. We just got rid of one.
I know.
I want one back.
I know.
I'll have Kenny Omega in the family, please.
I mean, I think he'd love it.
It'd be awesome.
They're
Wouldn't it?
very far apart, and I like it that way. These AEW to WWE questions are harder than ever because I think they're quite distinctly different at the moment, and it's good. It's much better that they are this way.
Couple of things from Mr. Phoenix. I've been back on my 1 hour walking regime since March the 1st. Got to get in shape and rounds don't count. Nothing keeps me going, though, like Sige hating how GOAT NXT is. So thank you for that.
There's been plenty of that. You've been getting a lot of walks in lately. There's been a lot of that.
But Mr. Phoenix also says, serious question, what happens in AEW now? A, Sasha realizes TK can't book women, or B, he changes everything for her, and the ladies that have been grinding for 5 years get justifiably pissed.
I believe it's a sincere question.
There's another option.
So I'm just not going to answer it.
So Mercedes Moné is the catalyst for change. And it's not just the fact that, I mean, I get him saying, okay, she comes in and people go, why did we never get that?
The rub people the wrong way comment that did the rounds last week.
Yeah, isn't the ideal scenario? She comes in, he goes, oh, yeah, probably should have booked women a little bit better, and then everything improves.
We talked about this a bit on the news today. I think she wins the TBS title. I know that's not exciting to people, but I think the idea of that is rooted in this whole deal that she was coming in, and it can't just be the one women's segment. And Tony Khan's counter to that is, right, well, I'm having both belts then. If you're bloody insisting that you get your own spot, and like Timeless Tony Storm is over here doing her stuff, you're going to get 2 championship angles a week. TBS is probably going to still feel secondary to the world title, but that's all right. She's got space to like move up. I think we're going to have both belts promoted and defended more regularly when Mercedes wins it. I think that's how it.
I hope so.
That's how it goes. I think. I know that that's not the most like Mercedes and Julia Hart. I don't think is the most exciting dynasty debut, whatever. But it just feels like the whole. When we were talking about her coming in, it was like get the belt on her straight away, and we meant that belt, and instead they've thought, no, we'll go for that belt instead. I think that's how it turns out. I'm not answering the question.
I've sort of combined 2 questions here because they're very similar, so thank you to both of you for sending these in. Jeff Raidmaker says, morning legends, armchair booking. Damian Priest cashes in on Cody at the end of WrestleMania and is revealed as the right-hand man of The Rock. The Judgment Day is gone and Solo and Priest look at each other the way that Wardlow and Hager did. Is that dumb? And Fly Eze says, what would you better, Roman beating Cody or Cody winning and then Damian cashing in on him?
Jeff, you sent us Mountain Dew Pitch Black.
You are forever in our debt. Forever in our debt.
But we're in his debt.
I got a lot of loyalty.
Friggin' is your dick.
I got a lot of loyalty to you, Jeff. What the frig is that, pal?
Like, what the hell's that?
What the hell is even that? No, like, I've read a lot of cash-in scenarios for WrestleMania, none of them good. That one included. Sorry, Jeff. I didn't even hear the second bit because I zoned out. I had a Hello Darkness moment thinking about WrestleMania going off the air. Cody's done it. He's finished the story. Never in my life would I be sad to hear, no, they're not. Go back. Like, save it. At least save it to Raw and have it be on Seth or Drew.
I think maybe a nicer response to the question. There are no... Well, it's not really nice, it's actually, saying that someone's doomed as a main event talent. There are no good cash-in scenarios at WrestleMania or otherwise because Damian Priest, I don't think, has the stuff as a WWE headline act. I don't think he's that compelling a character. I think they've turned the Judgment Day, who were never like a Four Horsemen-esque unit, into more comedy territory. I don't think he has the... stuff. I mean, whenever you see him in a long singles match, it's never that good. And I know WWE isn't the promotion that emphasizes match quality, nor should it be.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice to get some good wrestling on a wrestling program, in my opinion, but they just have no real inclination to do that, and it works for them.
Yeah, I think...
Damian Priest is still below the level, and I think so. LA Knight is as well. You have to be good at pacing and playing to the back row and being a Cody Cena Roman type, even if you're not an Omega, Takeshita, Ospreay, Okada type, right? You still have to be able to just project, emote, pace, like crowd psychology, manipulate the emotion in the building. Even if you're not a great action guy, I don't think Priest is either, personally. So when people say these cash-in scenarios, it fills me with dread most times. I'm not saying he isn't good. I've seen him work some really, really, really strong tags over the past year. Is there any shame in being a really great tag guy?
No.
Like, people have built their goddamn careers on it. He's a really, really good tag guy. It's a singles main event star. I don't think he's got stuff.
I'm not backing this scenario.
Again, I'm caveating every negative opinion I have. oh, he's Ricky Morton, but he's not. He's just not a great wrestler. And they've given him the briefcase. It's a mistake. I don't think he's good enough at that level.
It's not necessarily a scenario I'm backing, but the only one I could see if they did think, we've got to do this WrestleMania, like let's go with him, and this is a good stage to do it. If the Judgment Day leaves on night 1 and he cashes in a la Seth halfway through what I assume will be the opener, Seth versus Drew, but you were in a situation there where you've got 2 men making that belt and you're giving it to a belt that's got to make the man. And I think the difference will be stark if you've got Seth and Drew, credible world champions, as credible as this belt is. Once you give it to Damian Priest, it's like you're using that belt that is 10 months old to elevate a guy. That belt's too young to be doing that. Ultimately, Seth and Drew are guys that you buy as world champions. But that one I could see. I'm not saying I support it, but that one I could see.
I've said this before when people are panicked about the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think you've got till 1st of July.
Yeah.
So you've got a long time after WrestleMania. If you're asking me which would I rather happen, it'd be Roman beat Cody again than anything to do with Damian cashing in on a Cody Rhodes who's just finished the bloody story. But yeah, I'm my confidence is dwindling for Damian Priest as a singles world champion. But there's time after WrestleMania to try and fix that one way or another, whether he splits from the Judgment Day beforehand or whatever. Right, we've got 10 minutes to go, so we'll try and fly through some more of these questions. One question about a match you and I, well, all 4 of us are really looking forward to, which is, of course, Ospreay versus Danielson at AEW Dynasty. And Aaron Shackelford says, if Ospreay Bryan does build towards the Tiger Driver 91 spot, how do they do it without Bryan injury neck fears? Early in the match, no sell, other, or is this just a bridge too far?
It's not a bridge too far. Kenny Omega is a goddamn lunatic. He took the Tiger Driver 91. If you've watched any other Will Ospreay matches subsequent to that, and I've seen quite a few, he does a different variation of it where it's still that like kind of terrifying plunge, but there's a little sort of movement on the bump where it's right on the shoulders and not how Kenny took it. Kenny himself says, don't you worry about me. I'm magic. I know my body. I took it and I took it well. You just couldn't tell. All the rest of it. And I'm not going to argue with Kenny Omega. But if you look at the other executions of the Tiger Driver 91, and he's done it more than once, subsequent to that, I'd shock you to know that it's Will Ospreay with his unbelievable execution is that it looks sickening, but they're fine. You know, when you're like, not in the moment because you want to be wrapped up in it.
Of the Rude Warrior accidental one.
Yeah,
when they're trying for a power driver, Warrior's so useless. Where he's like, we're up, we're going to my knees then.
Yeah, we're doing this now.
Strong enough.
But what's genius in a way, and maybe Kenny's just been really altruistic with his selling all along, is that it's like the Burning Hammer, right? If you look at the way that Kenny Omega took that Tiger Driver 91 at Forbidden Door last year, it looked awesome, but it looked horrible at the same time. He's now injected that move with this like transgressive quality where you think it shouldn't be done, thus informing every subsequent variation having the same heft. It's like the Burning Hammer. If you ever go on YouTube, right, if you haven't seen the big, 7 Kobashi matches or whatever where he uses it, right, there's a supercut of every time the Burning Hammer was used. If you go from 1, Misawa, what are you doing with that bump, to the 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's like, you see the trick?
Steiner screwdriver as well.
It's got the stigma of this horrifying move, but then the subsequent executions in and of themselves don't look that bad. Yeah. And I think that's what Ospreay's going for with this Tiger Driver because he's quite a clever wrestler.
Is that going to be the finish?
It should be.
Yeah.
To be fair, he needs to finish a match with it.
Danielson kicks out 1 and he hidden blades him.
One of the two.
Bluey says, I don't get the depth and tactical element out of most Ospreay matches that get you into Bryan, Punk, or Kenny. He's very dependent on spectacular moves. I feel the depth of matches depend on opponents like ZSJ and Kenny.
A point I totally agree with perfect examples, I would say. Yeah. Kenny Omega is the one that leaps out. We talked about
Omega with this.
Yeah, Omega's the one that leaps out. Danielson on a different technical level, Punk on a different emotional level. But I don't know the answer because the more I watch Will Ospreay, 3 weeks in, the more I watch Will Ospreay as a weekly North American TV wrestler for the first time, the more he makes sense. Like, I thought that promo was fantastic on last week's Dynamite, and maybe ultimately what it always was going to come down to with a fan like, I don't want to speak, who's left the comment, sorry?
Bluey.
I don't want to speak to Bluey there, although I love your TV show. I don't want to speak to Bluey, but my experience of it, I think, was based on the fact that I don't think I ever thought I was going to see Ospreay as a weekly TV figure, so it was always going to be rooted in the matches. And my emotions just totally undulated. Sometimes I was with him, sometimes I wasn't. And then, like, sure enough, if it was Omega or if you had a promo like the G1 press conference, the Wrestle Kingdom press conference one, I was like, well, I'm all in on that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it will cut through. Like, if you're going to be the best wrestler in the world, or if you're going to be the best at something in the way that Ospreay is absolutely dominating conversations for, you're going to crack that too. And early signs are that he will. I think he'll crack everybody, myself included.
I don't know about Ospreay. At his very best execution, I'm in love with it because it's so good. But I completely agree with that take. And again, I think the examples used are perfect. If you look at Omega Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom and the build and the nature of that build, very much Kenny Omega's type of story. Mm-hmm. We saw something similar with Tanahashi, where it's very much meta and we are kind of playing roles. I'm better at playing the role than you are, and you've disappointed me by not reaching my level in New Japan. Did something similar with Tanahashi. I'm going somewhere with this where it's like, well, your style is out of date. You say mine's dangerous, yours is really quite dull. I'm reducing it, but that's what I'm getting at, is that's very much the Omega type of story in New Japan. And that was, for me, much better than Ospreay kind of being the senior part in the dynamic with Oku, because when it was Ospreay's time to be the one to drive that story and to be the one who's leading it and all the rest of it, it was very NXT 2019 style. Mm. And I think Omega's well beyond that. So I think using those two as a comparison, I completely get that take. Has Ospreay got it in him to do something on the intellectual level of Kenny Omega? I don't think so, personally. I don't, but we'll see. We'll see.
Marcel Laviolette.
He's 30 years old. Omega was great, but like when he was in his 30s in that New Japan run, he got that extra level of like cerebral match craftsmanship. So who knows? But for now,
Wrestler Prime's getting later and later all the time.
Yeah, Omega's levels above to this day for me.
Marcel Laviolette says, morning to the dads and welcome to Dadleyville. What do you think Cody's response will be to Hollywood Manners concert? And Adam, if you want to know that, I'll answer that, by the way, check out the Raw preview, wherever you get your podcast from. We talk in great detail about that. And Marcel also says, Adam, which is better, Nathan Fraser, when I'm cleaning windows, staying on NXT until beep beep down the bloody roadblock, or showing up on Fastlane next year? I think I prefer that one.
Because he's so quick.
I mean, I was thinking as I looked at that question, is there scope for when you bring Nathan Fraser, when I'm cleaning windows, up to the main roster, you put him in a tag with Seth Rollins in terms of like giving him that platform?
They've acknowledged it on TV already on NXT, so I'd be amazed if they didn't do something together where like Seth, the exact thing that Sidgy just said with like Omega and Ospreay, Seth would be like, oh, do you know what I think I might do is be a bit like Kenny Omega, and like he'll do that.
Really, Seth Rollins?
And then, and then Nathan Fraser will obviously just when I'm cleaning windows. 10 times faster, maybe even 10 times better, and then Rollins will pin him and be like, not quite yet, kid. I can almost visualize that whole thing playing out, and then everybody going, this one's better.
I hate tagging with that bloody Seth Rollins. He's always trying to emulate Kenny Omega. Oh, he's behind me. Final couple of questions or statements. One here from Matt Rains. He's going to be at NXT. Stand and deliver. Oh, yo. No need to ask where you'll be sitting, Adam. I think I'll be able to hear you at some point. I have no doubt.
And I've been in an NXT crowd with you before, and it's quiet enough that you absolutely can. People look. People stop and stare.
Oh, God. Well, I'm glad
Man gets excited.
About the people who are waving Ciampa off. What a legend there. Tony, get that schmuck out of here. Huh?
Well, that's actual children in front of them. Like,
that girl who had that, all those awesome signs, yeah.
Full-grown adult doing mafia voices. Little girl.
Beast mode, to circle back to our conversation about Maxwell from earlier. Do you think when MJF comes back, fans will even admit if he's doing well? Seems so dire online.
I struggle daily with how much of a bubble it is and how much it matters. You see stuff in WWE buildings and AEW buildings where they try and get pops from things that have happened online, and then it doesn't really work. And then you think, to be fair, there probably is one of the same, because who isn't on their phones? Or
said, where's your scissors?
Where's your scissors, man? Where's your scissors, man? It's still, if I'm Tony Khan or MJF or both, it's temperature's not right yet. The temperature is absolutely not right.
Shocker as well in terms of talent at the top.
You might want to wait for this. The thing is that this Okada Ospreay thing is kind of had the exact same effect as Punk and Bryan. You know, when Punk and Bryan came in, it's like, you saw both class. Yeah. Thank God. This is as good. This is even better than I could have possibly expected. The exact same thing has happened with this sort of spiritual sequel with Okada and Ospreay coming in. That's just class. Better than anyone could have reasonably expected even. So it is shocker. It would feel like he's just coming back for the sake of it. When this comes, Wardlow's finished in the storyline at the very least. When they come back, this MJF Cole stuff, I think they should just have an incredibly heated sprint brawl to pay it off.
Like what was it? Was it Triple H Sheamus? Where he's like, yeah, beat Sheamus. Anyway, on to Undertaker.
I think they should completely subvert what the expectations are of them coming back. Because I think people are expecting a takeover-leaning 25-minute epic where it's straining for ambition, it's straining for epic. Come back and just do 15 incredibly bloody minutes of brawling and try and emulate hatred and then wrap a bow around it. Subvert what it is that people are expecting or dreading about the eventual MJF Cole match and just really violently beat each other up. Cole is low-key a lunatic in matches like this. Yeah. MJF could really sort of convince people all over again that he's this heir apparent to the territory philosophy, if you like. Just come back and kick the piss out of each other, bloody each other up, and then have done with it. Because the worst problem with this is that it's this lingering, unwanted loose end that's just still. Come back, kick each other's heads in. No one wants to see the big part of the story. They just don't. There's no appetite for it. So subvert it. Show them something. That's what I would do.
I think you centre it around All In. I think you run it back at All In. Hang on. With loads of subverted callbacks. So loads of references to last year, but it's different this time. I'm going to kill you. Like, this is not about friendship. This is about absolutely killing you. Like, last year, I gave you a ticket to the main event because I wanted to wrestle my friend. This year, I'm giving you a ticket to Wembley because I want to kill you. That sort of thing. Or forget about the match at Wembley and just have MJF come back there. The literal biggest pop of the year is Adam Cole wins a match and then the music hits an unannounced return at Wembley Stadium, so it couldn't look and feel any bigger. I'm not saying that translates into a rating or there's again,
you can blow it off all out then straight away.
Yeah, it did pay off next week. Again, people is a.
And then we're going to have a Kenny singles match then if they've got that for All Out.
That's right. Yeah,
there are people who are like very much interested in MJF versus Cole. Look at the reaction to All In, the buy rate. Obviously, Wembley was a big consideration, but the really loud people hate it. And you kind of want to get those people in the buildings at this point. You really do.
Final question I'm going to give to Kaz. Thank you for your donation, Kaz. And apologies if I didn't get to your question. But if you want to send them to us at What Culture WWE, we'll try and tackle them on the news throughout this week.
New as.
New as in a
hey guys, if Gunther retains at WrestleMania, could he face a returning Roman at Bash in Berlin who doesn't want anyone else having having a streak now he's lost his? It might make Gunther the next big boss.
I love any version of Gunther versus Roman in Berlin. Yeah. There's not you can't tell a bad story for that.
Roman's at that point now where you look at the Intercontinental title, even this version of it is, what's that?
Yeah.
I think people are forgetting how big of a star he is and like how this guy has gone part-time. Like, he's not going to want the Intercontinental title. As much as I love that idea, I just think he would think the IC title is well beneath him. And you know what? Maybe it is.
Gunther,
it's bad for his image.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the match I love, obviously. Gunther, I'm leaning more towards him retaining at WrestleMania anyway because of the current booking with Sami Zayn. I think Gunther's taking that title to the world title. I don't think he's losing it. And I don't think they've got any more challenges in mind that they think can realistically beat him. I think it's the day that Gunther loses that title is when he hands it over because he's the world champion. So at this point, I think any challenger where you're asking, like Roman Reigns fighting Gunther almost has to win. Like you say, to end a streak, can't really have him lose. And I think Gunther Cody or Gunther, whoever's a babyface world champion, that's the match. And it's title for title, or just the world title on the line. I don't think Gunther's losing at this point. And fine. That's cool too.
Really excited to see what happens with Gunther in 2024. Cody's obvious, but Gunther is one of those ones that you just...
It's pretty cool to have someone like a Gunther who could be a world champion by the end of this year, or you could just be saying outright 2025 is his year.
Yeah.
On top. Like this, the road ahead seems really long, and that's pretty cool to have someone like him.
Well, let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed, either in the comment section below or on X at WhatCultureWWE. Well, actually, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
You can follow me at Adam Wilmore. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas, and follow us all, as I said, at WhatCultureWWE. Subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. But for now, this has been your questions answered. My thanks to Hamflett, Sidgwick. Thank you for all of your questions. And we'll see you soon.